Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today on episode 144, we're talking about where you go after you have a baby. Some people call it postpartum, some people call it couplet. Let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hillary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, where we untangle pregnancy, parenting, home, and even travel. We know there's no right answer for every family, but hopefully we can spark some ideas that will work for yours. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Okay, guys, before we get started, I just want to transfer you over to Apple Podcasts so you can leave a review. Okay, I can't transfer you, but it would be great if you left a review. And you don't even have to use a wheelchair to get there. Thank you. I'd love to introduce today's guest. I actually found her on the Tickety Talk, where she is KaratheBabyNurse. She is a postpartum nurse and gives so much good information on there. I absolutely love it, so definitely check her out. I want to introduce today's guest, Kara. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. Hey, Kara, welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's so fun to interview people that I've seen a ton on TikTok, right?
Yes, I know. I've never done a podcast ever. So that's this is all new to me, but really cool.
Yeah, I have so many podcast virgin nurses that come on I love it. I love it. I love it. Because you guys have all the good information.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So today we're talking about the transition from to postpartum. So
Yep.
Hospitals all do it differently. There are some hospitals that do labor, delivery, recovery all in the same room. Do you have any local to you that do that, Kara?
Yeah, so I actually live 5 minutes from a hospital. It's the sister hospital to the one I work at. They do LDRP, but the one I'm at, which is about 30 minutes from me, it's the big one downtown. That one is a split unit. So we have high risk is one floor, labor and delivery is one floor, and then postpartum where I work is its own floor. So we're all separate.
Okay, so the LDRP is probably a smaller hospital?
Yep, it is. Yep, it's smaller. And then there's a lot of sister smaller hospitals to the one I'm with, and they're all LDRP. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, I've noticed that they're all smaller that do it like that.
Because so the labor room is so specific to labor. I think they like to keep all that technology available for people that are walking in off the street. Whereas postpartum, they don't need as much stuff in the room. So I think it's easier for those smaller.
True.
So check with your hospital. Maybe you won't be going to postpartum, but either way, your care will change and how we visit you changes. So even if you don't go to a different floor, and you might not be on even a different floor. I used to just wheel people past the elevators
to
postpartum. They didn't go up or down at one of my hospitals. So yeah, sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's the same.
And the one you're at now, what's their setup?
It's just upstairs.
Oh, okay.
But that unit is separate from the hospital.
Oh.
So while I work for the hospital, and when we call a code blue, they run from the main hospital. We get ICU nurses that come to us.
Oh, wow.
We're entirely separate, which is awesome during COVID because, we were a closed unit and we couldn't get any of their cooties over with us. Less awesome when you're waiting for them to come during a code. But some hospitals are so big that you wait a long time for ICU nurses to get there anyway. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ours is, we have 3 separate buildings. So if we have anyone from ICU come, it's going to take them at least 10 minutes to get there. So
that feels like 6,000 years.
Yes, it does. But even though we're separate, I do feel like we're very well prepared though. The L&D nurses who I work with are super, super smart and I feel very confident with them. So I not to like make anyone feel scared. I'm like, I trust them very well. So
I will say that the main reason the ICU nurses would come is in case we had to transfer them back to ICU because
right.
when they come, they would just kind of stare at us and be like, do you need an alcohol wipe? Like, I'm not touching
Yeah.
that patient.
I know they're so scared of pregnant people.
They're like, get that
So,
baby out and then we'll figure it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So, like we're saying, and postpartum might be called so many different things at your hospital that you're delivering at. There's couplet care. That's what we call it at the hospital I was last at. Postpartum, mother baby. I bet they're getting away from mother baby because of the connotations of everyone being a mother.
Yeah, we do call our floors technically mother baby. Like if you're going to the floor, like listed like on the directory on the wall, it's called mother baby floor. So that's what we call it. And then I guess like in the computer system, like any of our scheduling stuff, it calls us mother baby. But yeah, you're right. I mean, postpartum nursery, but I do couplet care. So I usually have my 3 moms and my 3 babies. So yeah.
Okay, 3 and 3. Yeah, we do 4 and 4.
Oh, bless you. Do y'all have techs at least?
I mean, depends on how
Sometimes.
helpful they are or if
Oh
they're
yeah.
there.
Yeah. See, we don't have techs, so I feel like but honestly, I would rather have me personally less patients and then not have a tech
Yeah.
than like have more patients and maybe have a tech and or not have a good tech. So, but I just rather do it myself.
Yeah. So right off the bat, we've talked about a big difference between postpartum and labor and delivery, because essentially in labor and delivery, you'd have 1, maybe 2 patients
Right.
that are in labor. And once you get into active labor and you're pushing, you only have 1 patient as a nurse. I mean, fingers crossed.
Right.
There have been days where
Oh my gosh.
hunting
Yeah.
across the hall, but that's the standard of care, is really that you're just working with 1 patient once you're in active labor and progressing and going to have your baby.
Right.
Whereas Kara, when you go to postpartum, she has several patients. So Kara is obviously going to be different, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, most of the time I start off the day already. I have 6 patients, so 3 moms and 3 babies. But sometimes it may be I come in and I only have 4, but then they're like, you're going to get an admission in like an hour or a couple hours. But sometimes it can be crazy though, because we'll just for staffing reasons, like maybe I have a couple NICU moms or like 1 NICU mom, and then I have like 4 or 5 babies. So it's not always like even. Like ideal would be 3 moms and their 3 babies. But if like maybe a baby's in the NICU or like we have a NICU nurse who floats to help us, like they can only take care of the babies. They can't take care of the moms. So I may have that NICU nurse has all 6 babies and I have all 6 moms. So that's not like ideal. We don't like to do that because then obviously it's just a little more annoying if you have like 2 nurses assigned to you. Like let's say you're the patient and you have your baby and you have a nurse who has you and then you have a nurse who has your baby. That's like 2 nurses who are both like coming in and checking on you. And we try to be really good about it and like come in together, like if we come in to round on you or whatever, but it's just a little like there's not as great of communication because you as the patient may say something to the mom, or the mom may tell you something and then the other nurse misses it and there's just like miscommunication.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But one of the hospitals I worked at, we had entirely separate mom nurses and baby nurses. And then most of the hospitals I worked at, the nurses do both. It just makes it so much easier. Also, it makes it easier to know everything because, while you're in there, mom will go, oh, is this normal?
Right.
And if you don't know babies at all, you just be like, I don't know. And how reassuring is that, right?
I know. There's like a big hospital close to me where they're split, and I have a friend who works there, and she just does moms. So she just does the moms, and I'm like, so do you like that? Like, do you like it being split like that? And she was like, oh, I love it. And I'm like, I just feel like it's so much easier if you just have 3. Like to me, at least from when we've had to be split on my floor where I work. Like if I have to have all moms, I just feel like it's way more chaotic. I don't know what's going on. Like, cause maybe the baby is like, okay to discharge and the mom has to stay and there's just like miscommunication. So I don't know. I just prefer it like you're the nurse for both people to me, that makes more sense. And I think the evidence-based practice supports that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Everywhere's different.
You'll find that staffing makes nurses do crazy things. If they bring in, if they bring over a peds nurse,
Right.
we definitely don't want her not having any idea where your fundus is at. So
Yeah,
obviously we
exactly.
want to take the best care of you. So sometimes you may end up with wonky nursing staffing, but
True.
the other good thing is it always changes. That nurse isn't there forever.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. What else happens when you go to the postpartum floor?
Well, one of the first things I would like people to probably just kind of know is kind of what happens in the when you first get there. So your L&D nurse, at least for me, this is how it is on my floor. So labor and delivery will drop you off, and they'll either they text or call me that they're coming. Then once they get there, they tell me that you're there. So I'll come in the room. We do bedside shift reports. So that looks like the L&D nurse telling me all about you and your history, your previous medical history, and then also how everything went in your labor. They're going to go over how your blood pressures were, how your fundus is now, how it's been in the last hour. We just talk about everything.
Yeah. And that is an awesome time for you to ask any questions about your delivery that you have, because, once that delivery nurse leaves, you may not get her back. Like if all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
why did this happen? And then you're going to be postpartum and you're going to be sitting on your couch breastfeeding and be like, did they do something wrong?
Yeah.
Because my other friends didn't have it that way. So that is the time to get out all the questions you've ever thought of.
Yes.
Don't hold anything in, because that's really what bedside report is there for, is to answer questions too.
Yes. I'm super happy for people to ask, interrupt. I'm don't feel bad about interrupting us. This is the point of bedside shift report, is for you to also be included. So also jump in. So usually that process just takes 5 minutes. It's super quick. I do a fundal rub on the mom while the L&D nurse is there, to just so I can kind of be like, hey, was this what you felt also? And we can confirm with each other. Then the L&D nurse usually leaves, and I kind of spend a good, I would say probably 30 minutes in the room at that point, because I go and explain what now the next couple days are going to look like to the patient, so they're prepared. So the first thing I usually tell them is, okay, that was our first fundal check that we did now, and I'm going to have to do 3 more. So we're going to do 1 an hour for a total of 4 hours. So I'm like, this was 1, we're going to do 3 more. So I'm sorry, I'm going to be in your room a lot for the next 4 hours, but then after that, I promise I will try to leave you alone.
And let's just define fundal checks, because I've been getting a lot of hate on the TikTok from people about fundal checks. They're just so we're just making sure that your uterus is clamped back down,
right,
and that you're keeping all of your blood inside instead of it coming out. That's really all we're doing it there for. I think they think we like to be mean, but we really don't.
Yeah, I know. And I know I feel so bad, and I apologize to them. And I have I'll tell my patient to we'll breathe in together. I'm gonna count of 3, breathe out, and I push with you. So I have some ways to kind of distract and not make it hurt so much. But yeah, I mean, the reason we do it is because you're most likely to hemorrhage in that first few hours. And that's the only reason we're it's very rare for you to hemorrhage. I don't want people to think oh my gosh, I'm going to hemorrhage, but it's just that you're more at risk to in the first few hours. And that's why we do them so frequently at the beginning. So then after that, we're going to still do them, but just a lot less frequently. So then after I explain the fundal checks, then I usually we have a postpartum depression screening. So I have them go ahead and fill that out. It takes 1 minute to do it. I go over all the infant safety and security stuff, keeping the baby away from the elevators, and that they have an ankle monitor on so we know where they are. I just make sure that they have water and snacks, and kind of explain how the room is set up. If they need to call me, how to get a hold of me, I give them a menu, because that's all anyone cares about is food.
Yes, so hungry after you have a baby.
Yes, it's the most important thing. So we go over how to call and order food and all that. So then I back off, and I come back. I tell them, okay, I'll be back in at this point, I'll be back in 30 minutes, and then we do the second hourly check. So that's kind of what that first little bit of time looks like.
Yeah. How long? So at my hospital, we kept moms for 2 hours. How long does labor keep your patients?
Same, 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours. But one of the hospitals I worked at, it was 1 hour. So we were hauling you up real fast.
Dang, yeah, that is quick. Yep. Yeah. One of the other things I want to bring up too is I think something that catches patients off guard is like how many people come in your room. So I wanted to kind of address that because I think that's good to give people a heads up. So of course you have your nurse in your room a lot. Like I was just saying, that first 4 hours is like the most busy, but we'll still check on you and round on you. At my hospital, we're supposed to round every 2 hours. I don't know. Do y'all have like a specific requirement at yours?
Yeah. I've faked a lot of those.
Yeah. I know if they're sleeping, I tell them like, look, if you're going to sleep, I won't wake you up. I'll just peek in, make sure you're breathing, make sure the baby's breathing. I'll shut the door.
Or even if they say they're going to go to sleep, I give them like an hour, extra couple hours off just because.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. And then you have the doctors. So that includes your OB and the pediatrician. So that's a couple different people there. You have the hearing screener, which they usually come like the day after delivery at my hospital. I don't know. Sometimes they show up the day of if you deliver like early in the morning.
Well, especially with COVID, with people wanting to leave after 24 hours, they've been trying to get in there as soon as they can, I feel like.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's totally true. You have the lab come in. Usually they come in at 4 a.m. at my hospital, like the next morning after delivery, because they'll check your hematocrit, which is it's a blood level to make sure that you haven't been like losing blood and like there's no like internal bleeding or any bleeding like that we can't see, but also to make sure you haven't been losing too much vaginally. And then you have like the newborn photographer. They usually stop by and ask if you want pictures, although you do usually sign a consent form for that, like during the labor and delivery process. So they already ask you if you want to do that, but they'll come by. You have the managers coming by to round on you to ask how your experience has been. You have the birth certificate coming by to have you fill out all that paperwork. You might have WIC stop in your room to ask if you need to like sign up with them so that you can get like food stamps and formula vouchers. You may have social services stop by. My hospital, we have physical therapy, comes and sees all of the C-sections. So they come by.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we just started doing that actually. Like one of the doctors at our hospital was like super advocating for it. So they just started.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like been really awesome. So they just started that like a couple months ago. But one more person to come into your room. And then you have food and nutrition. So yeah, that's a lot of people. But I do want to say, like I said, you can always get a do not disturb sign and don't feel bad to ask for one. Like I offer it to people all the time. I'm like, look, if you need to sleep, we'll do what we need to do to get you to sleep and not be bothered. So never feel bad to ask for that.
And the good news is most of those people work during the day. Like they are not on night shift. So we do try and prioritize sleep, but that your nurse will still be in the night because we're horrible. Yeah.
They got to do what they got to do.
Yeah. I would agree though, in general, like don't be afraid to be like, I need to sleep because like I transferred up with my last baby at like 2 a.m. and
oh, that's so rough.
And they knew I was a labor nurse and she was just like, can we just get your teaching out of the way right now?
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I do want to get it out of the way because I don't need any teaching, but then leave me alone. I'm so tired. And then they like wanted to bathe the baby in the middle of the night. Anyway.
Oh no.
You are completely within all your rights to be like,
no,
not right now.
Yeah, I know people don't want to be rude, but I'm always like, look, I usually preface that before we start anything that may take a little minute. I'm like, we can always do this later. So don't be afraid to say, leave me alone. Like respectfully, you can be like, get out of here and I'll be fine.
Yeah. So. That being said, there are things, you can leave whenever you want, obviously, but there are things that we're supposed to check off, like making sure you do that postpartum depression. We have a don't you shake your baby form that they need to fill out. Like there are things that we have to check off.
Right.
You really can't tell the doctor, not now. Like good luck with that because they'll never come
Yeah,
back.
I know. Those are like the doctors and the lab are like kind of the two things I feel like you're just like, sorry, we got to do this. So we got to do it.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of doctors that don't order the H&H though, if they feel like they did all right. So
that's good.
If needles are a thing and you feel like you didn't bleed very much, you could ask to refuse that or whatever.
Okay.
But I would definitely check with the staff to make sure that they felt like your blood loss wasn't crazy before you just flat refused it, especially if it's the standard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I would agree with that for sure.
Does your lab draw the baby's PKU? the metabolic screen?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Okay.
We do that the day that they're the day of discharge that we expect they're going to leave. So,
Yeah. And they have to be 24 hours old before you can do that, right? Yeah.
right. But so we like kind of changed that recently. It's kind of annoying. So like let's say a mom has a C-section, so she has planned for a 3-day stay. So we would do the baby's PKU. We do it like right at 24 hours now. We used to wait and we would like wait and draw the baby's Billy and the PKU at the same time, just like on the third day, the day that she leaves. But like recently they said that the PKU is most accurate if we do it right at 24 hours. So we do the PKU, which is like one stick, and then we do the Billy and wait to do that closer to like usually the day they leave at like that morning. So it's kind of annoying because then that's the second stick. I was like, why can't we just wait and do them all together? But they said, I guess they like said it's more accurate if we do the PKU right at 24 hours. And then they don't usually want to do the Billy then too, because that's a little like if she's not going to leave, if the mom or baby isn't going to leave for 48 or 72 hours, that's a little on the early side. And they usually like to wait to do the Billy like later.
Yeah.
Because then the results are more likely to be better because the baby's been pooping more and eating more. So it's like usually typically a better number than the older the baby is. It's just annoying. More
We actually
sticks.
do them both together at 24 hours ish.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we did that because now we've had a lot of people complain about that recently. They're like, why is my baby having to get stuck twice? I'm like, I know, I think it's kind of silly, but
Yeah, maybe I do feel like we catch maybe more Billies than we need to, where they end up getting another stick
right.
6 hours later just to see if they're still in the high moderate. So
Right.
just to catch you guys up in case you don't know what we're talking about, the metabolic screen catches there are syndromes that your baby might have or genetic propensities where if they have like protein at all, they can like eat at their brain. That's what PKU is.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are things that we obviously want to catch very early. And the states, pretty much have mandated that babies get this PKU early on. Even if you had a home birth, the midwife does it at your home birth. Like it's really important that we get this. And then we also check babies for jaundice, which is where the baby turns a little bit yellow because they're like excreting all their red blood cells out of their body. So that's a little more intensive. But anyway, these are 2 labs that most babies get before they go home from the hospital.
Right. Yep. Something else I wanted to bring up too is a lot of people will ask me like, like if they want to leave early, let's say, but even if they don't, they're just kind of like, what do we need to have done before we leave? So they're like, what are like the things we have to check off? So usually for the baby, it's that they're eating well. We want to make sure that they're eating okay, that there aren't any like issues that we foresee, because we don't want you to take the baby home and you're like, oh, like my baby's not nursing at all, or they won't take a bottle, or there's just something wrong. We want to make sure that they're peeing and pooping adequately. And then we want to make sure they've passed their hearing screen, or if they don't pass, which also is normal. So don't freak out if that happens.
Yes.
Then they will schedule an outpatient visit for you to come back, like usually in a couple more weeks, and retest them. So that's very, very normal. So don't be worried if your baby doesn't pass in the hospital. It's very common. We want to make sure that that bilirubin is okay, which we just talked about, that it's within a normal range. Or if it is a little on the higher end, we want to make sure that you are going to see your pediatrician and follow up soon so that we make sure that we have a game plan for that. The baby has to have their newborn screen done, which we talked about. If you do want to have your baby circumcised, that's taken care of. And the baby has to pass their CCHD screening, which is just a little test where we put like a monitor on your baby to check their oxygen level and their heart rate. And we just want to make sure that it's okay. It's looking for like a heart defect. So that's why we check that. It takes like 2 seconds to do it. It's not invasive. It's just putting a little monitor on their foot, kind of like an owlet.
Yeah.
It's like an owlet. We just check their little oxygen and that's it. Those are the things that have to be done for the baby. For the mom, it's a lot simpler. It's just that her pain is well controlled. We don't want you to go home and your pain is just like, totally not controllable. We'll make sure that the meds we have for you have been working okay, that your vitals are within normal limits, like you don't have any high blood pressures or anything, and make sure that your bleeding is okay and it's normal. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And you have to have a doctor's order, which is a
Yes.
lot of times we're waiting
Oh,
on
yeah.
that.
Only the most
pediatrician.
important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most important thing.
Which obviously, I can state it again. You guys can leave whenever you want, but we can't give you the A-OK to actually leave the facility until you have a doctor's order. And And that especially for baby requires that they're seeing you.
Right.
For mom, a lot of times if they've seen you once and you had a vaginal delivery, they'll just say can discharge tomorrow and you don't have to wait for them to come around. But baby's gotta get seen.
Right, definitely. Does your hospital, let me ask you this, if someone like leaves, like let's say they refuse something being done and they're like, I'm just gonna leave, like, so I don't know if this is just my facility or this is like the state I'm in, but they like your insurance won't cover if your stay if you leave like against medical advice.
I mean, I've always heard that, but I've never actually heard that a patient ended up having a problem. I think most often we would call social services and they would probably call the state just to be like, hey, they left against, it depends on what we're waiting for. If we're just waiting for something silly or a pediatrician who's never going to come,
right?
I understand. But, if there was something, a drug test or that they weren't waiting for, then we might call CPS just because those are the people that follow up to make sure baby's safe, which is the main thing we're concerned about.
Yeah, I think it's good to bring that up because, I've had people waiting on like the hearing screen and they're like, sometimes our hearing screeners like are terrible at communication. We didn't realize that there was no one there that day. And we're like waiting and I'm like, just leave. Like, well, I'm like, we can like leave a message with them and have them make you an outpatient follow up. But so just say something if you're concerned about or you don't want to wait. I totally get that.
Yeah. But also make sure that you're starting the process early. Let your nurse know if you're planning to go home that day, especially with C-sections. It's kind of like variable. A lot of people go home on 3, but you can stay until 4, So let your nurse know your plans. The worst is when all of a sudden, you're thinking they're leaving tomorrow and then they're like, we're going. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have all this stuff to get done.
Yes, actually, thank you for bringing that up. That's like super helpful to tell people because one of my biggest things I'll tell people is like, please, if you're like my friends, I'm like, please tell them if you want to leave early, like literally tell your labor and delivery nurse, like when you get there and like tell postpartum too. I'm like, also like if you told L&D, make sure you tell your postpartum nurse because sometimes it just gets met, like we just forget to pass it off. Like even I've done that. I'll forget to tell, I try to be good and like write it on the paper, but I've even forgotten to tell the next shift, like, hey, they want to leave early, so they'll leave tomorrow instead of in 2 days. So yeah, the sooner you can tell us, the sooner we can get things done and the sooner we can get you out.
Yeah. I think people get frustrated because the doctor will come in, somebody will do their rounds at 7 a.m. and they're like, great, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no,
dang you, don't say crap like that. You're not the one filling out all these forms.
I know.
Yeah. So just something to be aware of. The nurse is going to be the only one that can give you a realistic idea of when you're actually going to be able to leave. We're really the controller.
For sure. And I was going to even mention that too, that you never quite know when you're going to be discharged because sometimes if you're GBS positive, that can affect things. Like at my hospital, you have to stay a minimum of 48 hours if you're GBS positive, which is hard for some people. Like if they want to have a 24-hour discharge, it's like the neonatologists or the pediatricians won't let the baby go yet because we want to monitor for risk of infection.
Which again is interesting because we don't have that rule.
Don't do that.
No.
Oh, well, see, I'm glad I bring that up because you're like, no, don't worry about it. If you come to my hospital, you're fine. I don't know.
I think a lot of it's dependent on the area, right? Like, are these people going home? Are they seeing a pediatrician? Does it look like it ends up being a problem in the community? And if it is ending up like being an issue, then, that's something that they're going to want to protect against. So,
yeah, I do know that like, I feel like in the area I am in, there is like a poor, I don't know how to say this. Like, there's not a lot of trust for people to follow up always. I mean, just from just proven, like from how we see how it is in the community. And so I think that that's the only reason they just want to be extra careful to make sure that your baby's safe if they're like slightly worried about you not following up.
Yeah.
But
so what do you do if somebody wants to leave at 24 and their GBS, especially like during COVID, because everybody wanted to.
They would have to leave
AMA.
They'd have to leave AMA, which did happen like one time that I know of. But I mean, most of the time, if we explain the reasons and the risks, like this is why we do it. I'm like very apologetic. Like I know you want to leave, but this is why we do it, and it's for the safety of your baby. And most people are like understanding. So But yeah, we had one person who was like, nope. And I honestly got it though, because she had like two other kids maybe at home and she just needed to like get home to them. And I totally get that. So I can't really blame you if you do that, you know?
Yeah, especially during COVID, if dad wasn't allowed to like come and go or any of those kind of things, that's a big deal when you've got other kids. So we understand.
Yeah.
Again, the key is communicating, like letting them know why. And probably on something like that, you probably wouldn't end up calling CPS because they have other kids. Whereas if she just like up and left and you're like, I'm worried about your baby, something like that.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. What's at your hospital? How long do people typically stay? Like, what's your normal?
It's been 24 with it.
Really, like everybody pretty much.
I mean, as soon as COVID was, and the stricter we are with visitation, I think people leave earlier, especially if you have other kids at home, which I totally get because it's hard leaving these others' babies at home. So,
oh, I know. What about C-sections? Can they leave at 24 hours?
No, I mean, most of them don't want to because they barely feel like they can really take care of themselves at that point. So probably more like 48. But we have had some, depending on when your C-section was, like let's say you have your C-section Tuesday morning, you might leave Wednesday evening, like a day and a half.
Right.
And if you've already had a C-section, some tips.
You're kind of like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's funny. We can't, the soonest a C-section's allowed to leave is at 48. Like you can't leave at 24 hours. That's funny. But I mean, like I've had people who are like ready to go. Like they have their C-section. They're literally up and like running around and they're ready to go. And I'm like, you're amazing. Like I probably wouldn't be me, but you're amazing.
I know. You're like, what did you do to be so like up and with it? And then you've got the other lady down the hall that you're like carrying her on your back to the toilet.
Oh, I know. It's just like so funny how everyone's so different,
Yeah. All right. Any other postpartum tips?
Yes. Okay. This is my last one. So I just have some things that I think that I would, just things I would recommend that people bring because I see all the things that people like regret, like things they wish they had brought and like the things that people are always asking if we have them because they forgot them at home. So people always forget hair ties. Yes. I don't know why, but they're always forgetting hair ties. So make sure you have lots of hair ties or scrunchies.
And we do not have any.
No, we don't.
I've cut them off scrub caps before, but they get caught in your hair. They're rubbery, so they're not awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that's like the one thing I feel so bad about when people forget. I'm trying to think what other big things people forget, but definitely the things that I hear people tell me that they're really happy that they brought with them is their own blanket, like their own like cozy blanket from home because if you have your own blanket and pillow, you're just going to be a lot more comfortable because the ones at the hospital, like they're fine. They're just like you're going to just be like, if you're in your more in your own environment, you're going to be more comfortable. I would definitely bring a sound machine because it can be loud in the hospital outside in the hallway. Like we were doing construction for the last like 6 months. And so there would be like the occasional jackhammer or something. So
we've had that too.
Yes, it's the worst. So I would bring a sound machine just because I mean, I know not everyone likes a sound machine, but I think that they're nice to have in case there's just like noise out in the hallway.
And that one's handy to have for baby later on too.
Yes. Yeah. I'm super big on sound machines for babies. I know some people are like weird. Well, not weird. Some people don't like to use them. That's totally fine. But I'm like white noise, like all the way up. And then I would bring your own toiletries just because like we do have them. We have shampoo. We don't have conditioner. We have shampoo. We truly do have everything you need. Like if you showed up and you had absolutely nothing, we would have everything that you need to like take care of yourself. But I would just bring your own shampoo and like your own stuff that's just going to be more comfortable, like your own lotion.
It's so gross. Don't use our stuff.
It's really.
I always feel bad when somebody like, was at work and like all of a sudden their water breaks and they just show up and I'm like, well, we have this thing that they call lotion.
Yeah, I know it smells, or it's like really watery.
Yep.
It's like not even absorbent. And then, oh yeah, our toothbrushes are terrible. Like they shed. Like you'll like brush your teeth with them and all these bristles like fall in your mouth. It's so gross. So I feel terrible. And then I would bring your own Depends. I know a lot, like for me personally, I did like the ones in the hospital, like the big yellow ones for like the first day, just because I was bleeding. You're bleeding more heavily the first day. So it was just like easier to change those out and like just use the big ones. But then I think like day 2 and on, it's just nice to have like the Depends because they come all like cover everything. They have better coverage. So I would bring some. Like you don't have to bring a lot. Maybe just bring like six of them or something. But it's just more comfortable to me to have those.
I would also say, especially if you're a bigger girl, our mesh panties, I mean, they're really stretchy, but some of them I feel like it does kind of dig into their thighs. So
yeah,
you can buy mesh panties if you don't want to go full on Depends. You can buy the mesh panties on Amazon.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. That's good info.
And they're just nicer. Our mesh panties are like fishnet panties.
They're like, yeah, they're so flimsy. They're too big for me, so they would always slide down. Because I would pack them with, I'd put the yellow pad, I'd put the ice pack, and then like the tucks and everything in them, and they would just be like sagging. So they wouldn't like stay up where I needed them.
That's not helpful.
No, I'm like, that needs to be right up against me. And then the last thing I would say, bring your own water cup, just because like we have them there, but like if you just bring your own, like a lot of people's own water cups just keep your ice like cool or keep your drink cooler longer. The ones we have like literally melt ice in like 2 seconds. I just think it's nice if you have like your own like double insulated cup or like a hydro jug or just something big that's like your own. It's just a little more, you're just more likely to drink more water. So
yeah,
which you need to stay hydrated after delivery.
Yeah, we do provide cups, like fairly nice cups with our name on it, of course, you know, but I would agree that it doesn't hold ice very well. And yeah, people like them though. I mean, we like them because they're in every shot with the baby, right? They're always like holding the Honor Health cup, but yeah.
Oh, that's cute. Ours are the like thin gray, like the with the pit, like you can put the picture in it.
Yeah, we had those for a couple years, and I was like, we are missing a marketing opportunity here, people. I don't know how much the cups are, but
dude, I didn't even think about that. That's so smart that it does like advertise the hospital.
Yeah, and they're nice to take home. Whatever you have, make sure that you have some way to get hydrated after the baby because it's so important that you're drinking lots of water. Breastfeeding or not, you're just going to want to flush all your hormones out.
Yep. And to keep it to help when you need to have your first poop after birth to stay hydrated. So
there's just not enough water in the world.
No, I know. How was that? Was that experience bad for you after your kids?
On my first, because I had a 4th degree, I had also taken like a boatload of narcotics and I didn't poop for like a week.
Oh no.
I needed the epidural for that.
Oh my gosh, bless your heart.
I did take the stool softeners. My sister-in-laws had always said religiously, take the stool softeners.
Yes.
And I would encourage you guys, if you're listening, to keep taking the stool softeners. As you know, if you're like a week out and it's all been soft and it's not something you usually have a problem with, you could probably stop. Mm-hmm. I would take them for that first week, regardless of what's going on.
Oh yeah. I tell my patients at discharge, like, just go ahead and take Colace in the morning and at night, like whether you think you are going to need it or not, just go ahead and like, I think staying ahead of it, like proactive about it makes a big difference. So
yeah,
go ahead and just start taking it early.
Yeah. Don't be me. Although I don't know what I could have done better.
Okay. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was 10 days with my first one. And I literally thought I was going to die. Like I was Googling, like, if I haven't pooped in 10 days, am I going to die? Like I was so scared. Cause I was like, how can I keep living like this and like not pooping? And now I didn't work in postpartum at the time, but now what I would have done differently is probably after like 4 days, I would have called my doctor and got an order got her to send in a prescription for a suppository.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to do that. If you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so uncomfortable and like this is just killing me. Like, don't be afraid to call them because they can call you in like an enema or a suppository or something more hardcore if the Colace or Miralax isn't working.
Well, and I would say even in addition to those is to keep up your fiber. So like have some dried fruit that you just have every day, or they have those Metamucil like bricks of fiber that are disgusting. They taste like graham crackers supposedly, but I find them hard to get down. So I would much rather eat just like some dried mangoes or something to try and keep my fiber plus the water plus the Colace. You just want to keep it soft down there. It's probably hard for my pregnant friends in there. You're probably like, oh my gosh, but it's just good advice. We're just giving you the good advice right now.
I know. You might not have a problem. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I pooped like in the hospital." I'm
I
like,
know.
"Oh my gosh, you're amazing." So good for you. Most people don't do that though.
Yeah. All right. Great tips. Anything else for new mamas?
I can't think of anything yet. I mean, no, I think I'm good.
Yeah. So you guys definitely take a peek at Kara on TikTok. She gives so much good information. Are you on Instagram too?
No, I well, like privately. I don't have like a public. I should get one though.
Why? Just kidding.
I know. I just like don't. I actually don't love Instagram because now the ads are so heavy on it.
They are.
So bad. Like I just don't even feel like I can see any of my friends' stuff anymore. It's just ads, ads, ads.
And I feel like the algorithm is so hard. My husband will be like, "Oh, did
Mhm.
you see on so and so's Instagram?" And I'll be like, "I totally follow them." And I'd been through my feed and seen nothing. And I hate that.
I've noticed that I have a friend actually who I work with, a postpartum nurse who she is like an influencer on Instagram and I think she has about 35,000 followers maybe, but she's been on it for years and like she said that just trying to get new followers and like just promote yourself on there is just she said it's so slow, like it's just so hard. So I was like, yeah, that's all right. I'm not going to
TikTok's so much
bother with it.
easier. Yeah.
I know. You just like make a video and like you might get 1 million views. Like no problem.
Yeah.
So,
Most random videos. You're like, I had no idea. I like, you're like, I'm going to get the Encanto music and it's going to be perfect. Goes bombs. But then you do some weird one about a placenta scab and you're like, okay, all right, sure.
yeah, I know. Dude, I know it's so random, which like I hate and love about it. So
Yeah.
like I'll make a video where I look like terrible. Like I'm not wearing any makeup and I look like a potato. And it's like that's the one that gets like, a bunch of views. I'm like, great. So
Oh, well, the algorithm. Anyway, so definitely Kara the Baby Nurse on TikTok. Look her up. She has so much good information. And you guys know I have the prenatal class, but it's so important to get prepared for after baby too. So get all the information you can. And Kara is definitely a trusted source.
oh, thank you. That's really sweet. I always enjoy your TikToks as well. I've learned a lot from you too. So even though we work in the same area, it's like we can all learn things from each other. So
Yeah,
that's
that
really
is something
cool.
we should mention. So labor nurses can float to postpartum. It's not our favorite.
Mhm.
We're not very good at it.
Aw, no, that's not true. I think y'all are awesome.
Well,
So,
we just have different skills, right?
yeah.
Like I'm not a great at latching on babies. I do okay, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't float to labor and delivery
No, I can go to the NICU though, step down NICU. So we all have our little things that
where we
we
have
do.
to go. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
just so you know, like it is separate, pretty much in most places, it's separate teams that staff each different one, but we all can sort of intermingle at times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
But we're all a team.
that's right. And you can always ask a question of anyone, even if your labor nurse comes up to say hello, definitely. And you have a question, they might be able to answer, or they can definitely flag down your nurse either way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming on, Kara.
Thank you, Hillary. I appreciate it.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I think we spend so much time preparing for the labor and delivery part that a lot of people forget about the in the hospital after you have the baby part. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And as a reminder, I have a whole lesson in the online prenatal class for couples about what happens on postpartum and how to get the most out of your stay, because I think a lot of patients kind of ignore that part when they could be learning so much about them and their baby. So come join me in the class. Big thanks to Kara for coming on. Do not miss next week's episode where we are pivoting and talking about decluttering your kitchen and organizing it. So definitely stay tuned. And if you're looking for more pregnancy information the week after that, we are talking about what happens at admission in labor and delivery. So see you then. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. We know you have lots of options for your ears, and we are glad that you chose us. We drop episodes weekly, and until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.